We are All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Ron Ferris. We have a guest preacher today, Reverend Sean, coming down from Foothills up in Fort Collins. I was about to lean over to Sean as we were listening to that beautiful prelude from Jay and just whisper to him, "It's a good group." And that's when I sort of realized in myself, as I'm looking out over the congregation here, coming to know you a little bit, and I feel this, a little bit of love swelling up in my heart. And I thought, why would I just tell Sean that? I should tell you that. So you're a good group. This month, we find ourselves in the underworld, the internal world, the eternal underground otherworld, the land of mycelial connections, dreams, and soil. We find that what is underground is ground. Our foundations, our generations, our rooted ancestors, and the seed of the fruiting bodies we will be when we are more memory and story than body. And yet we also ever will be body, for we are the earth, breathing earth, earth with a rhythm, with a heartbeat. I invite you to place your hands on your heart. See if you can feel that beat. The earth has a heartbeat. Ground to that beating earth. And maybe you can also extend that sense to feel that all these bodies with us now in this room and beyond are the same. All with a heartbeat, composed of living earth, inspired by this deep breath. Called by all our relations, by the sun, the wind, the waters, the land, called and made and remade, we are of the earth, the same earth that here has been cared for through centuries by the Ute, Comanche, Arapaho, Apache, Cheyenne, Kiowa, Pawnee, and Lakota. And now you. All iterations of the earth ensoiled heartbeats, may we be loamy, may we be fecund and generative, life-giving, seed-nurturing, root-holding, fruit-bearing, silent canticles of creation. As such, we extend welcome to all who would be with us, no matter your history, no matter your failings or achievements, dispositions, traumas, pursuits, kinks, or economics. Here we honor experience by composting it to participate in reciprocal creation. We are all souls, and all souls are welcome here. Especially want to give a little shout out to our folks at home who are beaming in. Hello, you are welcome here as well. Today, we also especially welcome two additional cohorts. One is the crop of folks who walked with High Plains for these past few years and who are today ready to sign the membership book and merge their path with All Souls. We are delighted that you have chosen to be here. And to that group, I just want to say that we'll do the signing immediately after the service. So when everyone else is getting coffee, we'll be in here for a brief but important interlude, a very glad event. Please don't drink all the coffee, save some for the folks who are coming here afterwards. Another glad happening coming up is the reopening of Club Q next week. So for us, next week will be soil communion. So bring soil from your place and pay attention to the newsletter. That being the case, today is the day we orient ourselves directly to the LGBT community. Today, we especially welcome and celebrate queer spirit, queer beauty, and queer resilience as a community of queer spirit, queer beauty, and queer resilience. Part of the warp and weave of this beloved community we call All Souls. Please rise in body or spirit as we declare this community in song.
Shock. Good morning. My name is Dale Young, and I use she, her pronouns, but I'm often mistakenly referred to as he or Mr., since my name is Dale. And truthfully, I always get a kick out of the momentary confusion it elicits from others. I am a member of the queer community, and when I came out in my early 40s, I identified as bisexual. Recently, pansexual, someone who's attracted to all genders, really is more fitting. Coming out was quite life-changing, and since I look straight and my queerness is invisible, I find that it is especially important that I continually come out. About 30 years ago, I fell in love with a woman after being married for 15 years to a man. I couldn't let it go. This disrupted my entire life and those of my children and family. We all grieved for what was, and there was some verbal attacks, but I would be remiss to focus only on the pain. It was really an exciting time. I was feeling new feelings, having new experiences. I found the LGBTQ Center in Long Beach, where there were opportunities to learn about bisexuality and where I could freely ask questions and explore ideas. I went to gay and lesbian bars, to the Pride Festival and to the parade. My vision seemed to change. It became wider and brighter. Everything just looked different. My body felt alive and stronger. I made a friend during this time who was just starting to live full-time as a female. Every day I lived with her. Every day I heard about the brave steps she took that day and of the little joys of living in a world where she was in the right body. She celebrated every new awareness and validation, and I could relate. I started to understand the reason I felt so compelled to stay on this path was bigger than my new love relationship. There was something very spiritual about it, and so when the relationship ended, I knew I could never go back. My friend and I were becoming, moving into our true selves. The benefits have been enormous. My trans friend became part of my family. My grandchildren have gay uncles and have had me and my wife as grandmothers. I became a more involved and wise parent, a better psychotherapist, and more importantly, a better friend to myself. I took charge of my life in ways that have continued to this day. I must say, subsequent coming outs, or comings out, I don't know which to say, have not been as profound, thank goodness. However, each time I do, I feel grounded, more open, connected to others, and happy that I did. It is very powerful. I have seen the same joy expressed when others in the queer community feel free to express themselves and do. I think all of our lives are richer with queer folk in it. I know mine is. Our collective vision becomes wider and brighter when we do. This Sunday, our collection plate goes to Inside Out Youth Services. Inside Out has a mission to build access, equity, and power with LGBTQIA2+ young people through leadership, advocacy, community building, education, and peer support. Their goal is to ensure that each of the lives we touch goes on to live a healthy and long existence as their authentic, happy self. Should you wish to give towards your pledge, please write pledge in the memo section of your check. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our guest speaker today, Reverend Sean Neil-Barron. Reverend Sean is a queer UU minister serving our congregation at Foothills Unitarian in Fort Collins, Colorado. Reverend Sean is originally from Canada, born on Treaty 7 land in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but has been living in the US for most of his adult life. Reverend Sean is the Colorado coordinator of Rainbow Villages, an effort to get faith communities to support trans and non-binary people and their families to relocate to Colorado from states that have targeted them and their families. Our own QU community group has been pleased to be able to work with Reverend Sean in this effort, supporting 2 passengers to safely settle in Colorado Springs. We are fortunate to have you with us, Reverend Sean.
It's good to be here. They say the rule of thumb when you're guest preaching is to always be shorter than the person who usually preaches, in length, that is, not in height. And I'm afraid I'll disappoint you there. I want you to know, Silen Wellington begins their poem, "If the future is trans," I want you to know the best things haven't happened yet. I'm sitting in a darkened theater 1 year after Silen was the target of an orchestrated right-wing assault. After scandal, school uses witch to address LGBTQ issues, the headline reads. Silen goes on. Google alerts arrive to the inbox, first on the blog, Parents Defending Education, then the Epoch Times, Daily Caller, Breitbart, all the way to the UK, then Fox News. Silen describes themselves as a sculptor of sound, an artist of people, a witch, a genderqueer shapeshifter, a mercurial story collector, and lover, amongst other things. They are a fixture of the Northern Colorado LGBT community, leading and healing, inviting ritual and fierce community and activism, and their very existence as a queer witch in the reclaiming tradition working in the public school system made them a target. Hate mail, threats referencing the places they go regularly, death threats. After scandal, school hires witch. The rallying cry, the scandal being referenced is essentially that a kid came home to their parents after attending a GSA and told their parents that they might be trans and their parents couldn't take it. The school must have done this to my child, the parents screamed. The disclosure eliciting a textbook case of ROTD, rapid onset transphobia disorder, in the parents. I want you to know the best things haven't happened yet. Back in the theater, and I can't help but notice how this is a statement of faith, not fact. Like the oft misunderstood quote from our own Theodore Parker about the arc of the moral universe, we think, we want to believe, we yearn to hear that Parker is saying that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But hear what Parker actually says. I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. He begins. The arc is a long one. My eyes reach but a little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice. I don't understand it. I don't see it. I can't complete the outcome, but I can divine it, and I trust that it bends towards justice. A year after the hatred. After 500 anti-LGBTQ laws have been proposed across the country, after gender-affirming care has been threatened and banned, after an estimated 100,000 trans and non-binary people and their families have relocated, becoming internally displaced, after Club Q, after too many needlessly gunned down, after too many taking their own lives, after too many, Silence stands as Parker did, to proclaim a truth, a faith, divined not by evidence on any spreadsheet, but in the wellspring of truth, in a bedrock of joy that can only be found within. Their words ring out in the theater. I want you to know the best things haven't happened yet. There are gender creative creatures out there that are just sparks of inspiration in our eyes. There's some kid dancing in a field of dandelions with breasts flying over his belly. There are some kids wearing a sparkly superhero cape, a smirk, no tremble of fear, and walking all confident into whatever bathroom they please. There's a kid out there inventing pronouns that are going to leave us tongue-tied. All we have to do is blink, and we'll open our eyes to some new tomorrow where those trans kids will be schooling us, correcting our grammar, and rolling their eyes, saying something like, "Trans is so old school." Whoever decided on that word. They're going to give us a new queer dictionary. They're going to fill our shelves with biodegradable glitter. They're going to humble us. They're going to make us think, oh my gods, how did I think the world was so small? And I can feel nothing but pure and deep, profound joy watching Silen say those words after a year of hate. Because in that theater, it is an oasis that exists where we can taste a future of so much freedom and joy that no matter the swirl of hatred, that I too in that moment can divine something of the arc of the moral universe, and I can float in that bliss, resting my weary soul. Because it's not always been like this. I can't remember the first time that someone called me a fag. That honor would probably go to a fellow elementary school classmate. Small disclaimer here, I'm going to say the word fag a bunch of times. But I'm going to invite us to lean in to trust that we can handle this word, because it may not end up where you think I'm going. Well, I can't remember the exact moment of that first epithet. I can imagine it, recreate it, because it happened so many times. One small transgression, as simple as a gesture deemed girly, a friendship waged against the current of gender segregation, even doing well on a test would be enough to earn the branding of faggot seared onto my skin. It's strange to be a child called fag before you're gay, or before you're felt any same-sex attraction. Because you realize that faggotry is bigger than same-sex attraction and doesn't in fact necessitate it. Being a child called fag in the 90s instilled in me an understanding that belonging was conditional and revocable, and that transgressing the gendered order had a cost. It hurt, but also it didn't. Which revealed something my childhood brain struggled to comprehend concretely, and so I processed it in feeling and fantasy that being called a fag didn't just hurt, it felt right. With a clarifying truthfulness, the word resounded within me, leaving behind the sting of a slur. It found me, embraced me. I didn't choose this word hurled at me, but in many ways, stripped of its negative connotations, it fit better than the word lowered upon me at birth of boy. I was always a haphazard boy, but a more consistent fag. So this word and I developed a strange and sacred kinship. It saw me, revealed me, terrified, yet allured me. It was a site of violence and imitation, but also empowerment. While others seen fag as limp, passive, and emasculating, for me, fag was about gender obliviousness, catalyzing freedom. An authenticity of embodiment, pliable, liquid, unconfinable. Subversive is how I'd say that now, liberating definitely, but also powerful. For when someone called me fag, I could detect within their detestation, a fear of what I was. Could I be contagious? Did I want to be? Or was I a mirror, a nightmare of reflections? First, mirroring back the fact that they might be like me. Second, mirroring that if they were like me and they looked in the mirror, they were already their own bully. How is it that we can become our biggest bully? What a task for a child to hold, what a burden for a parent to offload. And how strange is it that you might find a gender home in a slur? More in the words of a bully than in the pronouncements of parents and friends. It's a tad strange that in some queer way my seeming perversion was also my freedom. How strange that, but also how sacred. I want you to know the best things haven't happened yet. The insistence to transgress the social order, not to harm, but to avoid harming ourselves, spawns ridicule, yes, but also a joy beyond comprehension, a defiant joy that sees the state of violence for people like us, sees the fear and the political calculus leveled against our communities, hears the news of my neighbor's pride flag being burned a second time last night, and still would never go back, would never wish it away, would never wish for the spirit to be tamed. No one finds themselves in a closet of their own making. It is queer joy that when violence arrives at our doorstep, as it did a year ago here, the response is never to shrink down, to decide to be less of ourselves, to play it straight, or go back in the closet, and not because we aren't afraid or because we don't know the cost, because silence has always meant death. And so, you gathered, decidedly not silence, in this sacred space and outside Club Q, alongside people from across the state and the country, to grieve and remember, but also to remember that silence is not our birthright. That our queer ancestors, transcestors, asexual heroes, and intersex beauties gifted to us nothing other than an insistence to joy. A queer joy that is almost undefinable as it is uncontainable. Queer joy is coming out to yourself and your truth for the first time and for the 100th time. Queer joy is drag queens voguing at night and then reading stories to children the next morning. Queer joy is the gender euphoria of putting on a binder for the first time and gender affirming healthcare, of being asked your pronouns and for someone using your true name. Queer joy is the liberation of choosing a family that affirms your whole being, not just a part of it. Queer joy is kinky. It dresses up in leather harnesses and fursuits. Queer joy is everyday acts of doing laundry in mom jeans for the family that you never thought you'd have. Queer joy is kitchen table polyamory and relationship anarchy, expanding what it means to love. Queer joy is the freedom to say yes to bodily pleasure without shame and explanation. Queer joy is being your full, whole, unabashed, unapologetic, uncensored self. It is gender's that expand beyond expectations. It is love that doesn't color in the lines, and the sheer glittery power of queer joy proclaimed from dance floors to PTA meetings, to intimate bedroom moments, to parades in the street, to sacred gatherings of grieving is terrifying to those who need the world to be contained and orderly and stagnant. Because it teaches us that love can never be contained, can never be orderly, can never be stagnant, and can never get it straight. No one finds themselves in a closet of their own making. I want you to know the best things haven't happened yet. And despite the words and the labels that you might affix to yourselves in this moment, despite how straight or cis you might feel right now, the closet is not just a place for queers. Nor is it an idle fantasy of fascists and social conservatives who have never stopped trying to nail the closet door shut. That, as queer theorist Catherine von Stockton writes in her book, Genders, there is a queerness to this human life, even when it's played straight. The way there is a part of you that feels too odd to bring out in polite company or to church. A part of you that you feel you must hide away. I see it. I know it's there. Not because I know your secrets, but because I've been human too. Because when I find myself getting close to pretty much anyone in this life, the same words tumble out of my mouth. I love how weird you are. And I truly do. Get close enough and even the most conventional types crack. We are all strange creatures, beautiful ones, a bit out of place in this life, attempting to be true, attempting to be good, fumbling, failing, all a little bit queer if we let ourselves be, and that's the beauty. Queer as in strange, bizarre, and offbeat. Queer as in failing completely and categorically to be only one thing. Queer as in delicious, holy revelation. And all of this talk of queerness makes me want to queer everything, to find the freedom in the strange, the joy in the definitely not that. Queer like the lingering sweetness I imagine on Eve's smiling lips as she strode out of Eden. Yes, that Eve. From the story that was supposed to keep us in check and shame us. But in my imagination, there Eve is, never looking back, head held up high, the full-bodied sweetness of the fruit tasted and of the truth embodied lingers. She knows. She knows you can't be banished from a prison. You're set free. Because in that moment of claiming truth, delicious rebellion and revelation. In that moment, she realizes maybe Eden is the bad place. Maybe the world as it is isn't the world we want to live in. Maybe the script we've been handed, the script you've been handed, doesn't contain the lines that need to be said, the dialogue that needs to be held. Maybe the cast list at the beginning doesn't contain the characters that I contain, that you contain, the ones that you want to play for a moment or a lifetime. And just like that, just like other earth-shadowing revelations, that Soylent Green is people, that Vader is Luke's father, that when the kid says he sees dead people, he means it, that this is the Matrix and that Nixon was a crook. These revelations come with a liberation that dislocates us from the depths of whatever closets we find ourselves in, the truth reverberating with an intensity that cannot be contained by whatever bolts and nails, hinges and locks are attempting to keep us constrained. This is the euphoria of queer joy that names the house the closet was built in was fashioned by shame. We don't so much as come out of the closet as but break out of it, and we do it together. As Marcella Altos Reed says, no one leaves this land of bondage on her own. I want you to know the best things haven't happened yet. The overlap of queer and our liberal and liberating faith is not a grounding in fact or a theory of onwards and upwards forever, but is rooted in the possibility that this joy that I have, this queer joy that we all have, the world not only didn't give it to us, but it is true and it is real. 1 year on, we grieve. And through the tears and the sunsets and the laughter and strife, we commit ourselves to measure our lives by only one measure, by the love that we demand be made real here and now and for every minute and every season of our lives. Amen, and blessed be. Let's talk a moment about closets. The closets where we hide ourselves, our true selves, because we're afraid who we are isn't acceptable, lovable, or enough. We live in a world of so many closets. So many parts of ourselves and our lives that we hide away, the struggling parts, the nerdy parts, the dysphoric and euphoric parts, the parts of us that we're afraid are too much or not enough, the places of stolen joy and pleasure, the moments in our past that seem too scary to name. There is a seduction of the closet that is in part truth and in part lie. The truth is we don't live yet in a world where the belovedness of each person is honored and cherished, so it can sometimes be a safe refuge not to be scoffed at. However, hiding never guarantees safety, nor is there enough room to unfold ourselves in secret into the beautiful fullness of who we are. And ask any LGBTQ person, like Dale testified to earlier, who has made their way out of the closet, if they would go back despite the hardships. Few would. And so in the words of Harvey Milk, I'm here to recruit you into a ritual of commitment to our own and others' liberation. Ron is going to help me here. A ritual of inviting us to unlock the closet door for ourselves and for others.
So let's begin with a moment of introspection. Invite each of you to quietly name to yourselves the part of your life where you wish to crack open the closet door. This is a space perhaps known only to you, where truths and dreams have been kept away. Recognize it, name it, feel its presence.
In just a moment, I'm going to invite you to come forward. Dale and Justin are going to be up here in the aisles. And we're going to invite you to come forward and receive a key, an actual key. In this moment, I want you to imagine that that key would open the door to that freedom you're seeking. So I invite you to come forward, row by row, to receive your key, the key that invites freedom, a key that is a symbol of unlocking that closet door. And as you bring that key back to your seat, I want you to hold it tenderly in your hands. Hold it as if it is the key that would unlock that deep wellspring of joy It's not just a piece of metal, but it's a symbol of your courage, of your journey, of your authenticity. Imagine in your mind what door this key might open. Holding it in your hands, imagine how the call of love is inviting, is beckoning, emboldening you to unlock and unleash what lives in there. What would it take for you to live here? What would it take to live this free?
So you all have that name and that presence, and now you have the key to your own liberation. Of course, you always have had that key.
Yeah,
but
it's
now,
just a key.
Yeah,
But sometimes we need something tangible, right?
you can hold on to
To
it.
remind us.
And as you said earlier, we don't leave this place alone. So if you would, as you're holding your key, notice how everyone around you also has a key. Feel how they too are longing for liberation, longing for authenticity, longing for weirdness. Your key might be the exact key that they need. And because we are bound up together, I invite you to find somebody around you and give them your key. This act of exchange is a gesture of trust and solidarity, and as you give your key away, you share a part of your journey with them and they with you.
In receiving a key from another, acknowledge the trust that they've placed in you. The exchange binds us in our shared aspirations for liberation, understanding, and the courage to face what has been hidden. I invite you to hold your keys in both your hands. Holding our keys woven together in the fabric of life and joy, we offer this final blessing.
This is a blessing for all the keys. All the keys that unlock the tender truths within our hearts, that free the fearful places, the unseen spaces, the possible promises of a life lived wholeheartedly, whole bodily.
This is a blessing for the people who turn the keys, the intentions we set, the courage we give to one another as we move together, stepping out with all this beauty, all this joy, and all this love together. Amen. And blessed be. Friends, it is true that joy that you have cannot be taken away. And it is not just going to be gifted easily to one another. So I invite you, as you go from this place, to be joyful people, to find those dark spaces that need love and to be loved there too. To remember that we need one another in this life more than anything else. So let us be joyful, let us be kind, and let us be loving. Our service is over, but our service just begins. Go in peace and in love. Amen.
Mm-hmm.